Hi, welcome to my kitchen. I'm Dana from Mimi's Little City Homestead, and we made peach jam earlier, and I said, hang on to your peach peels and your pits. We're gonna make a peach jelly. So in my pot, I have peelings that I did yesterday, and when I made my peach jam, I saved those peelings and pits, put them in the water with the citric acid, and then I drained a little off of that and put it in a Ziploc gallon bag and put it in my refrigerator till today, when I could add to it from the ones that I'm doing now. So I'm gonna bring you down here so you can see. It's not very pretty, but it will be. And it's practically free. Rather than throwing it away, you get a few jars. Now I don't have a ton in my pot because I don't process a lot of peaches. But there's enough in there. A little bit of the water with the juice in it from overnight. I'm gonna add one more pint of water, and it just covers it up. Just enough, you can see. It's covered pretty much, and we're gonna put this on a high heat and bring it to a boil. And once it gets boiling, I'm gonna turn it down to like a medium, and I'm gonna cook it for probably an hour, hour and a half. I'll bring you back in about an hour and we'll take a look at what it looks like, but right there's what we look like in the beginning. So I'll bring you back in a little bit. I wanna show you what it looks like now that it's been cooking for almost 2 hours, and I've added a little bit to it. It's hard to see, I know, in this dark pot. It's cooked quite a bit. I can smell peach. It smells really good. So what we're gonna do is shut it off, and I'm gonna let it just sit there for a couple of minutes to cool off a little bit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and strain it and measure out the juice. Hopefully we get about 6 cups of juice. I had to add a couple of extra pints of water to it as it cooked. Of course, it cooked down a little bit, but that's fine because I added some to it. So we'll measure it out and see, but I can smell the peach. It actually smells peachier than it did when I made the jam. We'll do that, and then I'll bring you back when I'm ready to can it up and get it into the jars. And then we're gonna hot water bath it, and it's gonna take about 15 minutes because I'm gonna do pints. If you were doing jelly jars, you would do more like 10 minutes. So I'll bring you right back in a few. I gotta grab my apron. Okay, so I drained my peach juice. I drained all of the peaches and the pits out, and I ended up with 5 cups. And this is really pretty. It's pink. I don't know if you can see that very well. What happened was mine looked a little bit, it was cloudy. It wasn't clear like jelly. So I strained it through a tea towel, a cotton tea towel, and I ended up losing about half a cup or 3/4 of a cup because there was pulp and things. Because the first time I just put it in my regular metal strainer and I just strained out the big stuff. Then I strained it again through the tea towel and I ended up with a clear juice. So we're gonna go with the 4 cups of juice. We'll probably get 2 pints, maybe a little more than that by the time we add our sugar and everything to it. But so I'm gonna put my juice right in my jam pan. I'll put you down here where you can see better. I've had some questions about my jam pan, where I got it. I did talk about that in one of my videos where I explained more about steam canning. A lot of jam pots are made out of copper, and this one is stainless steel. Copper jam pots are usually anywhere from upwards of $200, $300, $400. Those are traditional. If you can find one at a garage sale, grab it. But this is a stainless steel. It's made by Kilner. I got it on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description here to that pan. What we're gonna do at this point, I'll bring you down a little more, is add our pectin, and then we're going to whisk that in. So for my 4 cups, I redid the recipe that I had originally set for 6 cups. So for 4 cups of juice, we're gonna put in 6 tablespoons of pectin. And the one that I'm using is this one. It's by Ball. It's good for measuring out odd, like this is an odd amount. So I could figure out how much pectin I needed. I didn't need a whole envelope full necessarily, so I bought this for in case I ended up with a funny amount, and I put in 6 tablespoons of it, and this is for no to low sugar, so I'm going to put in a little bit less sugar also. So 6 tablespoons of the pectin right into the pot, and I'll try to bring you over here maybe some more. It has a bad habit of wanting to make lumps, so you kind of just want to whisk that in really well so you don't get any of those lumps before you take it over to the burner. Now I've got my water bath canner heating up, got my jars in it. It's not even at a simmer, it's just hot. So we'll put our jam pot over here. Oh, and the reason it's a jam pot, in case you missed my earlier explanation, it's narrow at the bottom and it's probably at least an inch thick on the bottom. It's very heavy bottomed. Has your measurements on the inside to help you out. The handle for lifting and carrying, this is a helper handle so you can pour with it. Has a spout on the end, so it's bigger at the top. When you're making jam without pectin especially, this is helpful because the whole idea is to thicken the jam, and by having such a big surface area for the steam to come out, it helps thicken the jam faster, keeps it from burning because it's so thick on the bottom. So that's kind of a brief little, this is what it is. So we're going to turn this up onto almost high, and we're going to let that come up to a boil. It needs to be a rolling boil, which you've probably all heard before is a boil you can't stir down. So once it starts bubbling and really going at it and you stir, it's not going to stop. It's going to keep bubbling. We want it to get to that point. Then we're going to add our sugar. And for our sugar, I'm going to put in 3.5 cups. So that's a lower sugar. I like that better because I like to taste the fruit in the jams and jellies. I always prefer to have less sugar when I can. So we'll go with 3.5 cups. And then I'm going to can it in pint jars. This time going to get 2 pints, I think, maybe 2 pints in a jelly jar. I have one of those heating up in here. I'm out of jelly jars. I have one left. We'll see if we can get maybe 2 pints and a jelly jar full, and that would be great. So once this gets up to the rolling boil, I'll bring you back. This is not going to take long to get to a rolling boil because there isn't that much. This is a small batch, which you should always try to make your jams and jellies in a small batch. They're notorious for not setting up properly when you try to double your recipes. Even if you think you have them doubled or tripled to the exact amounts, it still happens. And in this case, that's the only choice I had anyway because I only ended up with this much juice. But this is practically free. This is the peach pits and peelings, no waste. That's all getting used. That is just tossed out. We got as much out of those peaches as we could get, kind of doing double duty, jam and jelly. So we're going to add our sugar all in one. And then we're going to start stirring and stirring and stirring. Get that sugar broke up, get it all dissolved, bring it back up to another rolling boil like the one we just had. If you see a little foam developing in there, first of all, it is edible. It's just a cosmetic thing if you want clear jelly without that foam. But it will also sometimes subside as you're cooking. And another thing you can do is skim it off, but you don't necessarily have to do while it's cooking. You can give it a couple of minutes. As it cools, it will develop a skin on top, and you can pretty much take that right off with a spoon. So we'll see what we end up with here, and I'll try to show you how you do that. Once we reach that rolling boil that we need, we're going to cook it. I'm going to set my timer for 1 minute, and then that will be the end of the cooking process of the jelly. You want to be sure to have a pan with high sides. If you don't have a jam pan, that's fine, but use a pan with high sides because this can foam up. So even though it seems like a small amount, when you're cooking it up, it will bubble up. Okay, now we're back to a rolling boil, so we're going to set our timer for 1 minute. And just keep stirring through it while it cooks. Boy, does it smell like peaches. And peaches are naturally higher in pectin, so that's why I used a little bit less than what maybe you would think you would use. I don't think we're going to have any problem with it gelling up. There's our timer. So we're going to shut off the eye and move this over to the island. And let it set for a minute and start to cool down. See, it does have foam in it. I whisked it up pretty good, trying to make sure it didn't lump. But you can see a skin start to develop on that. So we're going to let it just set for a second. It's going to gel. So I don't know where I left off, but I think my camera shut off on me when I was filling my jars. But as I was saying, it's a 1/4 inch headspace for the jars, the jelly. And I got 2 pints and 1/2 pint. That's the only jelly jar I have left right now. We're going to drop those in our canner. I used my vinegar and paper towel to go around the rim, and now I'm going to dump my vinegar in my canner. That helps anybody with hard water or well water. You want to put some vinegar in your canner, and it'll help your jars come out nice and sparkly. And now we're starting to boil up a bit. You'll notice I had to add water to it. Your jars need to be covered by water by at least 1 inch or 2 inches. But it has to cover your jar, so I got more hot water and poured it in there. Now I got it on high, so once it comes to that rolling boil, then I'll set my timer for the 15 minutes, and then I'll bring you back and we'll look and see what we got. Okay, so my 15 minutes is up. I shut off the burner. I'm letting that cool just for a few minutes, like let them sit in there with the lid on for 5 minutes. While that's happening, I just wanted to show you, this was out of the jam pan. It hasn't even been refrigerated yet, and you can see it's all jelly. What a pretty color. I don't know if you can see that well, but it's pink and it's so pretty. There, looks like maybe you can see that a little better. So once we give our canner 5 minutes, I'll bring you back and we'll take the jars out and take a look. I also wanted to let you know, I did this in a water bath canner. I'm trying to switch up every now and then and use the water bath canner because I think that's more commonly used. You can do this in a steam canner also. This is the same process as a steam canner. You're going to do the same things, only steam canners only take 2.5 quarts of water. This takes up to 16 quarts of water. It's heavy to haul over and dump when I'm done. You can do it either way and they both turn out good. Just to let you know, if you do have a steam canner, go ahead and use it. If you have a water bath canner, use that. If you don't have a water bath canner but you have a pressure canner, you could use that as a water bath canner. You just don't screw the lid down like you do pressure canning. You could also take a tall pot, like a stock pot, if you can put some sort of rack in the bottom to keep your jars off the bottom. If you're new to canning and you don't want to invest like a ton into it right away, you can always take a deep stock pot with a lid, one that would be able to put the water over the top of your jars by 1 inch or 2. And you can take the rings from your jars, extra rings, and set them around in the bottom all together, as many as you can fit in there, and make that like a rack to set your jars on to get you started. So that's an idea too, but I'll bring you back in a couple more minutes when this is ready. And I think I want to show you this too while we're at it. The 5 minutes that I give it is so that the jars don't break because of the climate change, you know, going from boiling hot water to in the air of your room, which is going to be so much cooler, they can break. So if you look at this, you can still see bubbles are forming from when it had been boiling, and we want the water to be still. We don't want any bubbles, any boiling. We want to know that those jars have sat in there and the water has cooled a little bit to help it when it transitions from the pot over to the towel. Okay, I think it's been long enough. The water has stopped moving, although there is one jar in the back. It's kind of funny. It's still pushing air out, if you can see those air bubbles. It's still pushing the air out of the jar. So I'm going to let him sit in there for an extra minute or so till he calms down. But the other two are ready to come out, so we'll take those out and take a look at them. Try not to tip these. Everybody likes to tip them because they want to take the water off of that lid, but trust me, it'll evaporate all on its own and dry. It's not going to cause a problem. But look at that color. I'm going to have to grab a towel so you can see. Oh, did you hear that seal? I want you to be able to see up close just how pretty that is. It's just the prettiest pink peach color. Trying not to tip it, but I want you to be able to see the color in it. It's beautiful stuff. And yep, I tasted it out of the pot. What was left, there was like a tablespoon or 2 left in there, and I put some on a plate and then I tasted the other. And I really honestly think it has a better peach flavor than the jam did. Surprisingly, this year it's super peachy. It's oh, there it did, sealed. I always say, even though they pop or ping when you take them out, it's because of the air change. They can pop up and down until they're actually fully sealed. And that takes anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. Usually with jelly, it's cooled down enough. I think 12 hours is what I usually go with. And you know, that would be 2, 4, 5 jelly jars if I had enough jelly jars to go for it. I think it's pretty good being made from something that most people just toss out. You know, you get kind of double duty out of the peach there. So it's really good. Really, it is. I know you've probably seen people, lots of people make peach peel jelly. But if you've never made your own, you really should try it, because I'm not kidding you. You will not be sorry. It is so good. Even that small amount, a couple of pints, that'll last for a while. Then I'll have a little jelly jar for later on. But it's really very good, and I think it'd be worth your time to try it. I hope that inspired you a little bit to maybe save those peach peels and those pits. It was a matter of a couple of hours of cooking it down in some fresh water. I have seen videos before where people have said, boil it for 10 minutes, boil it for 30 minutes, then shut it off and let it set at room temperature anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, which I'm not questioning their method, because that's how they make it and everybody has their own way of doing things. However you were taught to do them, it all ends up with really good jelly. In my case, I always just cook it for a couple of hours and let it get good and juicy, and then strain it, and then strain it again. You can use a coffee filter, you can use a cotton tea towel, take out any of that sediment that might get through your strainer, and then you've got a clear jelly. So it tastes really good, and that's only a couple hours of cooking it. I didn't make an all day or a 2-day thing out of it, because then it's getting to be too much work. So the next thing we're gonna do is peach pie filling. I'm gonna make probably I'll end up with maybe 4 or 5 pints. I don't put mine in the quart-size jars because I don't make full-size peach pies very often, and if I do, I just need to use 2 pints to get the same thing. Otherwise, I can use it for, peach cobbler or anything basically that you want to use your peaches for. That may take a quart, may take a pint. It's up to you. You can can yours in a quart. But we're going to get ready to do that next, and I will see you at that video. I'm so happy that you stopped by today and canned with me. Like I say, it always feels good to have company when I'm canning, because otherwise it's just me. And I enjoy your company, and I enjoy having you stop by and check out what we're doing and leaving comments for me about what you're doing. And if you have any questions about anything to do with the canning recipes or the procedures that I do, go ahead and leave a question in the comments and I'll get right back to you. I'm usually checking on it every day, because I'm usually making videos every day or every other day. So I'd be glad to talk to you or just chat with you, or just stop by and drop a hi or a heart in the comments. If you're not real chatty and you just drop me a heart, I know you're out there, because I know there's a lot of silent viewers. And thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate that, and sharing my videos and liking on them has moved them out to more people. So my channel is growing, and I really appreciate that. It wouldn't be happening without you. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later, guys.